Delegates, one of the first casualties of the Celtic Tiger was the concept of enough, that sense of what is needed to live a decent, normal life. In those heady days when counting millionaires was a national pastime, one of the more notorious tycoons was asked what he was worth, and he answered, "What does it matter? Sure, a man can only eat one breakfast." He knew what enough was, but he wanted more. Night after night on the doorsteps of Portlaoise, a town where unemployment has increased by 120% in the last year, I am meeting people who are afraid for their jobs. They're afraid of not having enough for their retirement. They're afraid of not having enough for their children's education. They're afraid of not having enough to feed their families. And these people are willing to reduce their expectations. They are willing to take pain, and they are willing to make sacrifices, because sacrifice is no stranger to many of them. But then they see Michael Fingleton's heir apparent turn down a salary of 360,000 a year. 1,000 euros a day, 7,000 euros a week. That man must need a lot of breakfasts. Delegates, it is easy to see why people are angry. They don't believe the crew at the top can lead us out of this mess, because that crew led us into it with their greed. And that greed has not gone away, you know. And next week, delegates, we are going to be treated to another dose of partnership talks, where a bunch of extremely well-paid individuals will attempt to decide what is enough for the rest of us. It's like a bunch of rabbits deciding on family planning policy. One of the first steps on the road to recovery, delegates, has to involve a rediscovery of what enough means. What constitutes enough to live a decent life? In fact, a national consensus around this could stand to us for a generation. Delegates, there is enough for everyone in this country. There is enough for our sick, there is enough for our well, there is enough for our young, there is enough for our old. It will take leadership, it will take courage, and it will take decency to ensure that everyone gets a share of our plenty. A Labour government, delegates.
Can you conclude, please?
A Labour government, delegates, will provide that leadership. It will have that courage. It will be driven by that decency. Delegates, we need a Labour government, and we need it now.
Thank you, Jim.